Ladies and mostly gentlemen, today we're going to talk about the Shadowlands endgame zone, the MAW, and ask the age-old question, what is it good for? But before we get into that, guys, I just want to thank the sponsor of this video, and that is my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MrGM. If you want to see me stream the Shadowlands beta and pre-patch every single day, I'm over on twitch.tv/MrGM. Right, so the MAW, the mysterious realm of the jailer, and this is a pretty interesting zone. There's a lot of misinformation out there, people saying there's nothing to do there, it sucks, or whatever, and in this video, basically, I just want to clear that up and essentially say, yes, there is quite a lot to do there, and it's not the worst. I know a lot of people are criticizing it for whatever. It was very bad back in the day, but it has got a lot better. And in this video, as I said, I do want to run through kind of why it exists, what you're going to be doing there, and the basic mechanics of this zone. Now, the MAW is a level 60 zone, but you will be visiting it very briefly during your questing experience. You won't be doing any of the end game stuff, though. You will just be kind of going there, looking around, and doing various quests that pertain to the story. But once you hit level 60, choose your covenant, you will get a breadcrumb quest to unlock the MAW and visit ven'ari. Now, ven'ari is a very important character in the MAW, and you're going to be talking to her a lot and interacting with her a lot. She's super important, and she is one of those broker characters. Now, she hangs out in ven'ari's refuge, which is a sanctuary. You can just hang out here all the time without any worries. You know, you can actually go AFK here. It's not really a worry. There's nothing that's going to kill you or do anything bad to you. To get to this area, it's pretty simple. You simply just have to jump into the middle of Oribos, this big kind of soul well thing. You jump in, they do this cool animation, you come flying down, crashing into the ground, into ven'ari's refuge. Now, in this area as well is the entrance to Torghast, and once you've done that beginning quest line, you will unlock access to Torghast. So Torghast is pretty easy to unlock, so that's not really too much of an issue there. So let's move on and talk about the purpose of this zone. Why will you be spending so much time there? Why is it important? Originally, the MAW was used as a way to get keys for Torghast, but they then removed the keys to Torghast, so it kind of became a bit of a shell of itself. But now it does have some reasons. So you will be going there at least once a week. Now, you have a weekly quest in your sanctum to bring back souls. These souls are just sprouted around the zone. You can see them on the minimap here, and you collect 5 or 10 or whatever depending on your renown level, and you bring those back to your sanctum, and that actually rewards you renown, which is a super important currency. So this is a super important weekly quest to do to be on top of your renown level. Essentially, the rest of the MAW is just a rep grind. That is what the MAW is. Now, the reputation is for ven'ari. It's specifically ven'ari rep, and there are several levels of this, pretty similar to how normal rep works, but they have different names. You have dubious, apprehensive, tentative, ambivalent, cordial at the max level. And as I said, this is just basically friendly, honored, revered, exalted with different names. And that's the reputation you're going to be farming the most in the MAW. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, that's fine. Now, how do you increase the rep? Can I no-life it? That's the most important part. Unfortunately, you can't, but we'll get into that in a moment. But there is ways to gain this rep. The simplest way is just 2 weekly quests from ven'ari. These rotate every week, but you get 2 weekly quests that you do, and that will increase your rep by quite a lot. There is also a bunch of rotating daily quests on the map every day as well, so you can do that to increase your rep. Also, once you've done those, you can just go and kill rares. Rares will increase your reputation with ven'ari, along with more lore items, which do drop from pretty much everything, but more so from rares and elites. That's something that you're going to be wanting to try and get, and you can hand those in. There's actually an achievement linked to it as well to find them all, so that's something to do. And there's also special encounters similar to like the Veil or Oldham, so those are things that you're going to be doing in the MAW to increase your reputation with ven'ari. On top of the reputation, there is also a currency called Stygia. Now, Stygia is a very interesting currency, and this is why. With Stygia, you gain Stygia, but you can also lose Stygia through dying. When you die in the MAW, you lose Stygia, which is actually pretty interesting, right? So if you want to go and get that Stygia back, you simply just have to run back to your corpse. When you die, you get taken to the nearest graveyard, and then you have to run back to your body and loot your body. If that body doesn't despawn until you die again, and obviously once you die again, you can't go back and get that one. So essentially, if you die, you want to get back to your body, you want to get that Stygia. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. That's kind of the mechanic of it. It's a weird currency. It's apparently that's something that happens in other games as well. So yeah, when you die, you lose Stygia, which I could imagine is going to get pretty annoying for people. But if you want to increase your currency, currency. It's pretty easy to do. Essentially, you'll get currency from everything that I just listed. The weekly quests, the drops, the more lore items, rares and elites, random events, all of that stuff will be awarding Stygia. So that's super important to do. So you'll passively be gaining rep and Stygia. Just try not to die too much because it's going to get super annoying, losing an amount each time you die. At a very basic level, that's essentially what the MAW is. It's a reputation grind and it's a currency grind. So you're probably sitting here thinking, okay, that's fine, rep and currency, but what exactly am I getting this for? What is the point of doing all this and how will it benefit my character? Well, ven'ari in the MAW right here has some things that you can buy from her. Now, a lot of it is just kind of upgrades to Torghast and the MAW to help your experience there. Things like making the Eye of the Jailer mechanic a little bit easier, which we'll go over in a bit, but essentially a lot of them are just kind of to help out with like things in Torghast and things in the MAW. But the most important ones that you're going to probably want to be focusing on are at Cordial, which is the highest rank from ven'ari, and it's this one here, the Unbound Reality Fragment. Now what this does is it adds a conduit that you do not have to your collection, or it upgrades an existing conduit by 1 rank. So that's pretty darn good, and that's 1900 Stygia, which actually isn't that much. So the real kind of grind here is just getting that rep up with ven'ari as quickly as possible so you can start getting all of those missing conduits that you might not have gotten from raids and dungeons and, you know, world quests or whatever. So that's a pretty great item. There's also the realignment apparatus. Now this is important as well. This is 7,200 Stygia, and this does actually add a socket to your items. So you can add that to helms, necks, braces, belts, and rings, and as I said, it is 7,200 Stygia, and that is purchasable at the Cordial rank, and it's going to be pretty important to your player power, especially if you are progressing. And finally, one of the other important things you can get from ven'ari is a legendary power. Now, this is the Memory of the Jailer's Eye. This is obviously different between different classes, but this is just a legendary power which is available at 4,986 Stygia, which is extremely specific, but those are the things that are available. As I said, there is a lot of other things that do benefit you and your more experience, but for the most part, these are the important ones that will affect your player power the most. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, you cannot no life the MAW, you can't no life the rep, you can't no life the currency, which is a shame, but they do have a pretty interesting system to stop you from doing this, and that is called the Eye of the Jailer. And this system is super important to learn because it's going to be integral to your MAW experience. Now, I like to compare this to GTA. Think of it as like a 5-star thing. It goes up in levels and it goes up to tier 5, and basically the more you do in the MAW, the higher it goes. And as I said, there is different levels. These are called tiers. You have tier 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they all do different things the higher you get them. And the more stuff you do in the MAW, the quests, the dailies, all of that stuff will increase your Eye of the Jailer, and obviously it caps out at 5, which will kill you. So let's go through quickly the different levels of the Eye of the Jailer. Number 1 will be Soul Beacons, and essentially Soul Seekers are now hostile to you. It's not really too much of an issue. You could just kill those. It's not exactly hard to do. Tier 2 is Soul Surge. Now this is where towers will periodically attack your location, damaging you and chaining you. So essentially when they do hit you, you will get these chains and you can just click those off. A little bit of an annoyance, but not the end of the world. Tier 3 will be Hunted. You get this notification that something's coming after you and this NPC will spawn and you'll have to kill it. Again, not the most annoying thing in the world. Now tier 4, it's very, very annoying. You will be hunted once again, but you'll be hunted by a Stygian Abductor, and this Stygian Abductor will fly you into the air, and you'll have an opportunity to try and kill it, but if you don't kill it, it will silence you, and it will drop you out the sky, killing you. And this happens quite often, so at this point, you kind of just want to get the hell out of there. But if you do want to stick it out and continue doing your things, you will get to tier 5, which essentially is just a stacking damage debuff, which will eventually kill you. But good news, your Eye of the Jailer does reset daily, and if you do hang out in ven'ari's refuge, you don't increase your Eye of the Jailer. So it's a cool mechanic. It's definitely kind of a time gating thing. I found it very frustrating on stream, kind of doing stuff and then having to stop. That was kind of annoying, but I guess that's kind of the point. They want the MAW to feel dangerous. They want it to feel like a zone that you shouldn't be in for too long. So yeah, that's essentially what that is. It's a daily reset on the Eye of the Jailer, and you'll have like a, a set amount of things that you can do before you're essentially forced out of the zone. And finally, the most annoying thing for me by far is the fact that you cannot mount in the MAW. One thing I see a lot is that people say, oh, it's okay, you can just relearn to ride your mounts in the MAW eventually. And unfortunately, that's not a thing. That's not a thing that is purchasable from ven'ari as of right now. So unfortunately, no, you're probably not going to be riding your own mounts in the MAW anytime soon. So yeah, mounting in the MAW. Now there is ways to mount, there's ways around it, but it is slightly annoying. So, the biggest way to mount in the MAW is to obtain the Corridor Creeper, and this is from the Twisting Corridors Layer 8. Now this is something you're not going to be getting at the start. The Twisted Corridors is kind of the endless version of Torghast, and I do have a video going over all of those rewards if you want to check that out, but the Layer 8 one is the highest reward you can get, and this mount is one of those kind of Shadehound things, and they do have the ability to mount in the MAW, which is a huge advantage, because otherwise you're going to be running around super slow. Another way to mount in the MAW is actually kind of an interesting one, going back to the kind of GTA theme. I'm pretty sure the MAW is just GTA at this point. You essentially kill one of the MAW spawn who are mounted, and then you jump on their mount for a small amount of time. That's going to be your biggest way to get around in the MAW. It's pretty interesting. As I said, it's basically just GTA, so that's kind of a thing. But also, if you're a druid, you can actually use your travel form in the MAW. You can also stock up on gun shoes or things that are similar to that. And the other thing is, if you're a Worgen, you can actually use Running Wild. Now, I don't know if this is a bug or an oversight, but you can use Running Wild in the MAW. So if you're a Worgen, you'll be able to mount straight away in the MAW with that 100% Running Wild. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, actually. I think that's a bug, but it's kind of funny, and thematically it works, you know, technically, but yeah, that's that. So yeah, that's essentially the MAW. That is pretty much everything that kind of goes on in the MAW, and that is the zone. Now, obviously, you know, going into 9.1, going into 9.2, we're probably going to see some expansion and additions to this zone, but right now, this is kind of where it's at. Yeah, so essentially, when people say, oh, there's nothing to do there, tell them they're a liar, because there is plenty to do. It's just content that, you know, will kind of be daily time gated, which is, you know, kind of annoying, but it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. It's an interesting new experiment from Blizzard, and I'm looking forward to kind of going in there, farming some rep, being told to leave, coming back the next day and farming some more rep. You know, that's the zone. And yeah, let me know down below what you think of the MAW. Are you excited to go in? Are you curious about it? Have you learned anything from this video? I'd love to know if you have. So yeah, before I go, guys, I'd like to give a massive shout out to my amazing patrons, YouTube channel members, and Twitch subs. You guys are awesome. And if you'd like to support the channel in any of those ways, links are down below. So leave a like on this video, guys, if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't. I've also got a partner Discord channel with over 3,000 members. And as I said, I am now streaming on twitch.tv/MrGM. If you want to check me out streaming the Shadowlands beta, pre-patch, and launch, I'm over on twitch.tv/MrGM every single day. And with that, guys, I'll see you next time.